Hello and welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. And apologies to those on YouTube that normally enjoy a live episode. This one is pre-recorded due to a busy schedule that we've got on this week. And it is a busy episode of Red Tinted Glasses this week for you as well. First up, we will review the Cup win over Stirling Albion and the concerns and joys that came from that as well. We'll then discuss the Cup quarter-final draw as the Dons head to Dingwall in that competition before previewing the upcoming Europa League Playoff game against BK Hacken. And we've been joined by Eric from the Pogia podcast as well to give an opposition point of view. So lots to get into, Calum, and no better place to start than Friday night football, eh?
Oh God, do we have to? Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe need to advise people to get a spare pair of underwear or nappies on the side, because apparently we're very good at overreacting and pant fishing on Twitter anyway.
Partly so. However, I would be of the opinion at the moment that a lot of concerns are particularly valid. However, Glen, ultimately we are in the round, in the hat for the next round, and Ross County away as well. Midweek.
Yeah.
Sad.
Well, let's speak about the draw first, because quick and easy to get that one ticked off and out of the way. Ultimately was job done on Friday night, and it has seen the Dons head to Dingwall for the Cup quarter-final. Celtic, the biggest shock of the weekend, getting knocked out by Derek McInnes, finally getting one over Brendan Rodgers in Cup competitions. Thoughts on that draw, Calum? Best draw we could have hoped for, even though we're not home?
I was looking at it with the teams who's left in there, and basically fancying most of them. So long as it was at home, then I would have been absolutely delighted. However, even though it is probably one of the more favourable ties, you could say it's all Premiership clubs, and we have to go away from home, and the pressure will be on. And I just don't know if I like it anymore, Glenn. I don't know if I like it. Why can't we just got any of them at home, and then it would have fantastic chances?
Yeah, I think with the fact that we've got the European first group game on the Thursday before, then it's County at home on the Sunday, County away midweek, and then Rangers away the following weekend. A set of tough fixtures that just shows how busy and hectic September is really shaping up to be. But I suppose we should discuss how we got there, Calum, because it was a 2-1 win over Stirling Albion on Friday night, and hard fought and win. Is that fair to say? Because we looked comfortable at times, but the last 20 minutes, not so much.
I personally would put that under the unconvincing bracket. Or equally, I suppose you could look at it as professional. Went there, got the job done, did what we needed to do, I suppose. However, I don't know. I was expecting a bit more. Barry seemed to blame the pitch once again. Obviously, he did give credit to Darren Young for having organised his side, just on the whole pitch thing. How many times are we going to hear that excuse this season? Because in our opening game, we blamed that against at Parkhead, even though they won. No, at Pittodrie, even though we won, Brendan Rodgers was complaining about the length of the grass, and then Barry's pulled it out of the bag for this one. So that'll be a recurring theme. But it wasn't convincing. I wasn't particularly impressed. I'm ultimately happy we got the job done. And I'm trying to look at it as like we're over the hump of losing to lower league opposition now. Maybe that was playing into things as well.
Yeah, and I suppose, that was certainly on fans' minds and certainly under Barry Robson's mind as well, because he named a full-strength side, in fact, the same side that started against Celtic on the Sunday previous. Just showing how seriously he was not only taking the competition, but how much respect he was paying to Stirling Albion, who, of course, up until Friday night, well, actually midweek, when they named a very weakened side against East Kilbride in the Challenge Trust or whatever the fuck that trophy is called for the Diddy sides, when they lost to East Kilbride, they hadn't lost in 90 minutes. And I think, you're probably right. It was a professional job, if not a pretty job, done by the Dons on Friday night.
It was far from pretty. It was ugly a lot of the time. And I sort of felt once we got that, I thought they were going to be difficult. I thought they were going to be organised. However, I expected more from us. I thought once we got that breakthrough as well from Bojan Miovski, which he took the goal relatively well, even if the finish wasn't emphatic, really. But I thought we'd then maybe get in our groove a little bit more and start to take control, but they did make it very difficult for us. I thought it was a lovely setting at the stadium with the Wallace Monument in the background. That was nice, at least. And that's what I spent most of the game focusing on because the football was pretty dull for the most part.
Yeah, to be fair, I was on the opposite side of the terrace from you, and most of the game was spent being distracted by a guy in a white polo shirt in the kind of singing section of the Stirling Albion, and who did an impressive job of managing to stand for 90 minutes. Let's just say that's how intoxicated he was, but provided a lot of entertainment, certainly for large parts of that second half, and with how irate he was getting at some of the decisions. But in that first half, Calum, you're right, we probably did kind of control the game well. I thought Shayden Morris continued where he left off from Sunday, looking impressive. But continuing my concerns around Shayden Morris, final ball was once again severely lacking.
Yes, possibly. I don't think he looked. I thought he looked impressive. He looked sharp, but you'd expect that against the opposition, I suppose. No disrespect, but I liked his confidence. I have as many concerns regarding his final ball until towards the very end of the game when we had sort of a little break on, and he just absolutely leathered straight across across goal for for no reason at all. But other than that, I thought he played quite well. Oh, and there's also some minor dicking about out on the edge of the area with about 10 minutes to go, which I didn't enjoy.
Yeah, that cross in particular, that was so infuriating. There was no composure there. I remember like all of us turning to each other. A few of us were saying, I should have kept it in the corner, run down the clock. And I actually just thought instead of just blasting the ball, he could have actually almost driven the ball into the box himself and taken it in and then looked for a cutback to Sokler or Miovski. That for me, there was just that kind of composure was a bit lacking. But in the early stages as well, we were unlucky not to take the lead when Duke's header was tipped onto the bar and over for a corner. Now, Duke's a player that's come in for a bit of surprising criticism online. People will say we're going to have a different opinion, given he's a friend of the show. But I just think on another night, he's unlucky with two headers in both halves, both coming off the crossbar. If either of those headers had found the back of the net, probably he wouldn't be getting criticism for not being up to speed or lacking fitness, which is accusations that have been kind of aimed at him. And a lot of people maybe defended that in the sense that it took him a while to get up to speed of the game last season. So he's maybe just warming up just now and saving those goals for Thursday night.
Hopefully, with a match with a special celebration would be excellent. However, I think it's harsh. I suppose a lot of it also he's maybe not getting quite the service that perhaps he quite requires. Likewise, Miovski, he's managed to grab a couple of goals. Let's not forget, one of those goals put on a plate for him by Luis Henriquez de Barros Lopez. He did take time to get up to speed last season. He also was running himself into the ground every week for us too. And he didn't get as much of a break, or certainly the break at the right time either. Obviously, he joined up with pre-season late, so he will be a wee bit behind, but he will get there, and we will forget about all this. And also, if it discourages teams from bidding on him, because he's not quite hitting the heights that teams were used to last season, then I'm fine. Wait until September 1st, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if it's going to discourage teams from buying him because folk keep criticising him online, then keep doing it. And it's like, what we did when Matty Pollock played so well, told Watford fans that he was genuinely just terrible and tried to put them off. But not that that's worked so far. In terms of the first half, though, as I said, it could have all been different had Duke found the back of the net with that header instead of the crossbar. But we kind of grew into the game as the first half went on. Stirling kind of looked to cause us problems on the counter-attack, which I felt they did at times, looking to exploit what was a poor backline, I felt, throughout the night. But a bit of quality. Now, we were kind of having a bit of an argument before we recorded this. Well, I say argument, a bit of a discussion about whether it was a back four or a back five. And I certainly felt for the goal itself, we seemed to look more of a back four, and certainly for large periods of the game, I felt Nicky Devlin was more in a right back role rather than a right centre back role. Maybe that just shows how spread the back three were, rather than kind of how narrow we're used to seeing. But a bit of quality from Leighton Clarkson, moving the ball out wide to Nicky Devlin, and Nicky Devlin just showing that quality, driving into the box, playing the ball to Bojan, and after finally getting the ball under control, a really cool, calm, composed finish into the bottom corner to maybe ease any nerves that were kind of growing through that first half.
Oh boy, nerves were absolutely growing at that point, and they came back in the second half. I'll tell you that much. However, it was a bit of a sigh of the relief that we at least we got that first goal. I hoped that we then go on and build on it, but all things told, they took the goal very well. It was a good finish from Bojan. If the power wasn't quite there, he still managed to get it in the back of the net, and that was excellent. It was good, encouraging from Nicky Devlin, seeing what more he could do. Sort of if he was playing that sort of more natural role for himself. I think it was a 3 centre back job just for what it's worth, and then Morris and Duncan were very high up the park, particularly Morris. However, we're squabbling over nothing really important here, but it was encouraging, certainly from Nicky Devlin's standpoint. Good to see Bojan continuing on the goal trail, and long may that continue. In fact, he's on a wee bit of form going into the European playoff is encouraging.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then if you follow us on Twitter, or X to give it its proper name, because I know people keep calling us up on the fact that we don't call it correctly. I put out a tweet saying, if you have a question based on the first 3 games, we'll try and find the answer. And it's maybe not kind of a question from Calum Walker, but maybe more of a point from the first 3 games. It was why do we seem to just be playing hoofball most of the time? We seem to be missing the focal points of Clarkson and to some extent Polvara. Celtic game, we at least seemed to pass a little bit, but Livy and last night, obviously referring to the Stirling Albion game, just seemed awful. And I know when we've been doing the lives as well, it's a point that David McLennan's been picking up on a lot as well. The fact that we seem to almost be bypassing the midfield, and I guess to an extent, at times on Friday night, we did do that. But the kind of point I'm trying to make is when you got a player like Leighton Clarkson on the ball on Friday night, we could see that bit of quality brings, and that vision he found picking out Nicky Devlin for that opener. And at times in the second half, I think he was just a bit unlucky with some of his balls over the top to Bojan, just not quite there. Or if it was, the control was there, but the keeper was out to smother the danger, or good defending from the Beanos as well. But once we got the likes of Clarkson and Polvara on the ball and we moved the ball, we actually looked very dangerous.
We did. It's weird when you play actual football, you can look dangerous, but I don't think we did it enough. Yeah. And I think that's part of the disappointment for me. If we'd missed, well, I know certainly towards the end of the game we did miss a few chances, but if we did force the goalkeeper to pull off some excellent saves and it ended up in a 2-1 win for us still, then I'd be a bit more positive. But a lot of the time that sort of football wasn't there. And again, whether it's down to the pitch or whatever, as Barry sort of blames it on, then it's whatever. But it wasn't convincing enough for me. I thought we were gonna see a little bit more from what we saw against Celtic. It sort of seemed to be 2 steps forward, sort of 1 step back almost. Ultimately, though, however, getting through. And the goalkeeper, I don't recall he had too many saves to make at all.
No, I think maybe 1 in the first half for Calum, then obviously picked the ball at the back of the net in the second half. But yeah, I don't really think he was overly worked in particular. Are you meaning Stirling's keeper?
Stirling's, but thank you for letting us know about Kel as well, in case anyone didn't see that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. He wasn't overly tested, but again, that maybe just goes down to some of our play and when we were trying to. I felt like, as you said, kind of dicking around on the edge of the box was what you said, and I sometimes feel that we did that, especially against Livingston, where we're almost trying to score the perfect goal rather than taking an attempt. And I remember, was it in the second half, where Ryan Duncan had a volley and Angus MacDonald tried to curl one into the top corner, but he curled it out of the stand instead. Players just actually having a go instead of just, trying to find a pass. And I'd almost obviously if we would hit the target, I mean, if Angus MacDonald had curled that in, that would have been up there for goal this season. But those players, kind of not being afraid to have a go and kind of take that responsibility on their own shoulders instead of putting it all on the likes of Duke and Miovski, and then those players getting the criticism when we don't score. We do need to be able to share the goals around the team as well. So yeah, you could argue that is a bit of a concern, that we didn't work the keeper enough, and especially if you want to go back to the Livingston game. But it will come, it will click. We're still in the early stages, but I definitely see why there was cause for concern from Friday night.
Yeah, it was. I did try and look at it like we're through, it's fine, at least it wasn't another Darvel moment, and that was against a better side than Darvel as well. But it wasn't convincing really in any way, shape, or form for me. But ultimately, we're through.
I just think as well that maybe we're being a bit too disrespectful to Stirling Albion given the season that they had last season, obviously the start they'd had to this season. And I think Barry Robson made the point as well that when we went on to win the League Cup when he was playing, how bad we were against Alloa at home at Pittodrie. We scraped through that one on penalties. No one talks about that game anymore, because ultimately we went on to win the cup, and it could be, given the fact that Celtic are out of the competition, it's going to be new name on the trophy this year. We're probably not going to speak about this game if we went on to lift the trophy in December.
No, probably not. But given how shite we were, I'm just a bit concerned going into our European playoff. We don't look ready, in my opinion.
No, and again, that's a lot of people's concern, that we don't look ready. Again, for me, on Friday night, defence seemed to be a problem. We'll speak about the left-hand side first of all, because we seem to be speaking about every fucking week until Jimmy McGarry is up to speed. I was a bit concerned by Barry Robson's comments on him, in particular saying that he's got a lot of work to do to get up to speed, and he's currently doing double sessions to get up to that level of fitness, because I thought he was kind of being involved in Central Coast Mariners kind of pre-season. I know he's not going to get, he's not maybe match fit, but and that's certainly questions being aimed at Ordadya, but how are you going to get match fit if you're not getting minutes? That's by the by. But how did you feel Ryan Duncan and Jack McKenzie did on Friday night? First half, I thought they were okay. Second half, totally different story.
I think they certainly got targeted a lot more in the second half. And defensively, I felt in the first half they were both fine. It was more sort of on the ball, certainly with Jack McKenzie, where things weren't quite coming off for him, or it was taking sort of one extra touch. However, again, sort of by the by, in the second half they were certainly more targeted. And I know you were very concerned about some of the aerial duels he was losing, not necessarily his fault, I suppose, but they were clearly identified at halftime by Darren Young as that sort of weak point. And I think it was evident that we do need more options in there. And I was actually surprised that Ryan Duncan didn't come off for more experienced Hayes, for example, in that second half.
Yeah, I just wonder if Johnny Hayes' knock was kind of maybe affecting that.
Maybe, but then why the fuck's he on the bench? You can have someone else there. However, again, trying not to be too harsh on particularly Ryan Duncan when he's played there once in his life, and that was against Celtic. So
yeah, no, look, I'm not looking to blame Ryan Duncan at all, or say that he had a bad game, because again, as you're right, he's playing totally out of position against a player for the kind of time that he began to look poor was being targeted. Ironically, once Dante Polvara went off the pitch is when Stirling decided to go long. And for the life of me, it was Robert Thompson when he came on was just told to just sit on Jack McKenzie and win everything he did. And everybody around me could see that every time Stirling were getting the opportunity to pump the ball long, that's where the ball was going, and Jack McKenzie was not winning it. I don't know why Angus MacDonald didn't just say, right, I'll take him from set pieces. It took till probably once the game went 2-1 and Jack was still struggling, that Angus kind of took a bit of responsibility. But I think it's kind of frustrating that the fans can see it for so long, but the players aren't really reacting to it. But I think that says more about us as fans when the nervousness kind of kicks in that is extra time looming if something goes drastically wrong.
Yeah. To be honest, I also thought it was a weird one that it was a straight swap McDonald for Rubezic. I thought perhaps it might have been better for them, to get some game time alongside each other. Strange concept. I know when we love playing just one centre back, but I thought that might have been useful. It'd be good to get Angus some minutes, and it would be good to get some understanding. And Rubezic, I thought, did struggle, which is maybe why he went off. But then having that experienced head alongside him might have helped.
I was going to say I agree with your kind of method of thinking. Play them both together, get them used to each other. But I mean, I said he was a diamond that needed a bit of in the rough and needed a bit of work, but maybe needs a lot of work based on that showing on Friday. I think I called him a bomb scare in the second half. There was the incident where it would have been extremely soft, but the likes of John Beaton and Willie Collum would have jumped to the opportunity to award Stirling Albion a penalty, where Rubezic had his hands on the back of the forward and he goes down. I was kind of more surprised that it wasn't awarded, given kind of some of the incompetence we've seen. But again, I think when the ball's in the air, clearing the kind of doing that no-nonsense stuff, he looks fine. But when he's kind of asked to do more than that, he looks extremely nervous. And I saw a few people say it. We're comparing him to Anthony Stewart, who got slaughtered for doing similar.
And he certainly doesn't look comfortable on his left foot either, from what I gathered on Friday night. But it'll be interesting to see how he does when he does have two central defenders alongside him. And I think, for him coming across here and adapting, it's going to take some time. Still only 23 as well, so I'm willing to cut him some slack. But I can understand Robson maybe wanting to replace him in that game. However, I just felt maybe getting him, used to playing alongside someone who else is an actual centre-back, an experienced centre-back at that, who can maybe help him get through the game a little bit more and develop that sort of understanding might have been more beneficial. But hey, that's why I'm not getting paid to do the job.
True. We speak obviously Ryan Duncan maybe being replaced and looking at Johnny Hayes. Or Daddy is on the bench, and as G-Man 909 said, where is Dadia? And again, a few people, questioning what he's got to do to get any involvement in just now.
Well, I don't know. I don't have a clue at all. I mean, that's 3 games he's not been used for now. Likewise, Bissau in 3 games he's not been used for as well, I suppose we should mention. But it's odd, and I think people were saying against Charlton, Dadia looked like miles off it. But if he's not up to speed by now, then it's a concern. And also, you need match minutes to become match fit too. So I don't really know. Is he just going to be understudied to Devlin and there to be called upon the rest of the season? But then the option to buy seems very odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense unless, of course, especially when Jaden Richardson's still got a few years left as well. It doesn't. Who actually has only played 1 minute of league football for Stockport County, I saw as well. So he's not even getting any experience on his loan deal. But our defence just seems kind of really strange. And then I know you've been on Scales Watch this weekend as well, and he was getting splinters in his arse as Celtic got punted out the cup. But of course, with the injury to Stephen Welsh, might mean he continues to warm the bench for Celtic for a while. The sooner that deal is just dead and buried or done, the better, because I'm sick of it, to be honest. But I've seen the Dons were linked to Kieran Brown of Oxford United, of course. Kieran Brown has had Scottish Premiership experience playing for Livingston a few seasons ago. I really feel that is the kind of area, centre, well, definitely left side, which Kieran can play. We need to target before, was it midnight on Wednesday, you said, is the deadline to sign somebody ahead of this game coming up on Thursday?
Yes, I think it is 11 o'clock on Wednesday, or maybe midnight on Wednesday. 11 would make sense considering most other teams will be an hour ahead of us, I suppose. That would make sense. Yeah. However, that would be UK-based players because I think we've missed the window for signing players certainly for the first leg. that could go to Sweden and play if they were coming from abroad, because apparently he can't leave until 10 days after, as you saw with Hearts. So Kieran Brown, I did a little bit of research. It seems he was primarily a left back. He's primarily a left back, which is interesting. However, Transfermarkt does have him as a 6'1" left back, and they do say that he can also play centre back. So it would be interesting to see, with that sort of stature, would he come in and be that left centre back, which maybe not something I'd be against. Certainly played a lot of minutes in League One for Oxford, and has played as high as the Championship, I believe, but he didn't feature that much. I think it was Portsmouth he was with at the time. So it'd be interesting, and if it's sort of us moving away from Scales, because that's been a long saga, then if we could actually get that deal done, I would be happy, to be honest, because clearly we do need bodies on that left side of defence, and I mean, they're taking the piss really a bit with everything, aren't they?
Well, Mark Emsley posed the question that, he said recruitment seems a bit haphazard. Obviously, things not progressing with targeted players, or I'm going to call that as Liam Scales. And Hearts have beaten us to 2 defenders, allegedly. Obviously, they haven't come out and named us as the club, but Frankie Kent, they said that there was a club that tried to have late interference. And again, with their recent signing on loan from Brighton, whose name escapes me, I know he scored today, but they said once again, despite a late attempt to muscle in on the deal from a Premiership club, he opted to sign for them. Obviously Dave Cormack likes the limelight on social media, was back, posting up another update for fans as well, backing up the fact that he said, 2 signings were coming in. That was Ordaddy and James McGarry. That's fine. We're happy with them. And that things are working on, and we're hopefully going to have something before then. I think it was 3 or 4 players he said would be kind of coming in before the end of the window. But you can understand why there is that kind of growing impatience amongst Aberdeen support ahead of, I think more so it's ahead of Thursday, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I understand recruitment not an easy task. However, we have known when we're going to be playing that first playoff game for a very long time now, well over 2 months at this stage, and we're still in a situation where we've been playing one fit centre back. I know that the Rhys Williams injury was a bit of a freak incident, and then obviously Angus McDonald's issues as well. However, they have had still plenty of time to address that, and even if they were fit, we're still probably lacking another senior centre back, especially one to play on that left side. So that's been glaringly obvious. Likewise, creativity in the midfield, particularly if Clarkson's going to play deeper, someone else who can get up and closer in support of like Miovski, that's clearly needed. So it's a bit of a worry, but interesting that we are now seeing a bit of link elsewhere, away from Scales, which is probably mainly fan driven, because we just assumed it was going to happen at some stage. Also, there has been Timothy Jambor, according to Harador, whatever, Ingolfsson on Twitter. So we're going to have a little bit of Calum's rumour corner, because we're desperate at this point. 20 years old, desperate. Slovakian under-20 international, maybe under-21, currently valued at €450,000 on Transfermarkt. A striker who last season scored 8 goals in 26 appearances, I believe. I think so. I think he scored 13 goals in total at just 20 years old. I think that's decent. It'll be interesting. However, people making the connection of, does that mean Duke's away? There is also rumour that Alfie Babbage is going to go out on loan. So perhaps that someone coming in, he's 20 years old, and then it's a chance for him to bed in before Duke does go, for example, say next summer.
Yeah, and Alfie Babbage, of course, being linked with a loan move to our growth. I know from that tweet that Cormac put out, because of course we're not desperate to get him on the show, we'll just use his Twitter account instead. He said that by the end of the window, we should have 12 or 13 players in, all of whom were under contract versus free agents. And again, this seems to be a drum that Barry Robson continues to beat as well, that he is kind of against getting in loan players because the amount certainly we had last season, I think 8 or 9, then come the end of the season, you're once again looking at a big rebuild. So again, I guess that could be a reason why things are slower when you're trying to get people out of contracts and, persuade them to come to the Northeast.
Yeah, possibly. It is quite a long way away, in fairness. But I just feel like by now we should be in a better spot going into this European playoff game. And I'm certainly going off Cormac Street, the fact that we are apparently close to 2 or 3, and then there's going to be a possibility of a 4th at some point. That would certainly, you'd feel like given how little time there's left, you'd expect one of those potentially 4 this coming week.
You'd expect, and you would definitely hope for your own sanity.
Desperate.
It's coming across. In this, if we go back to the game on Friday night,
do we have to?
How did you feel in the second half? Because I felt we were very much huffing and puffing without blowing the house down. And I know, obviously, we were 1-0 up, but equally, kind of Stirling weren't kind of causing us too much problems in the second half whilst we were 1-0 up. But, it's funny, we've been sitting on this podcast for the first couple of episodes berating Barry Robson only making 1 change. And as Chief pointed out to me and Rab on Friday night, he made 3 changes on Friday night, and we were still complaining that the changes maybe weren't correct, or we were still wanting maybe more on top of that. A sentence I never thought I would say: once Dante Polvara came off, I felt we really kind of lost a bit of control in the midfield. Fair to say, or did you view that differently?
I agree. Whilst he maybe didn't have too much of a influence in terms of going forward, I guess I felt he really helped us win that midfield battle, using his size very, very well. And seems to be sort of making that place his own right now, in terms of that sort of Ramadani replacement, which is interesting, whether they'll view as that as one of the positions that we need to improve on, or certainly get another body in. But yeah, that's how I felt, and how I felt was miserable. And had it not been for a pie handed to me by a certain Mr. Walker, son of Sam, then I would have been even more miserable. So thank you very much for that. But it wasn't good. The football, not the pie. The pie was good. It wasn't pretty, was it? It just wasn't convincing at all, and it sort of seemed to peter on in the second half quite a lot, and then eventually they sort of took control almost.
Yeah, if you're playing RTG bingo, you're doing really well so far. Calum mentioning Bojan, Calum mentioning a pie. I don't know what else would be on the bingo card, to be honest. But yeah, probably me being negative. But yeah, we did grab that second goal. As we were speaking about the Stirling Albion goalkeeper, he did have to make a really good save to, I think it was Graham Shinney's shot. But Leighton Clarkson first on hand to react and fire the ball high off the bar. And well, we can really tell from probably both our views in the South Terrace if it crossed the line or not. But both the referee and linesman were convinced. I think at the second bounce that it had definitely gone over the line. And as you said, Calum, that should have probably given us breathing room and really kind of put the tie to bed. But the last 20 minutes weren't to be the case once Stirling Albion got themselves back into the game and took control. But yeah, I think probably shared that thought that once it went 2-0, that was going to be job done. And okay, the second half hasn't been glorious, but let's look forward to the Cup Quarter-Final.
And would have liked them to actually start to enjoy themselves more, so we can enjoy it off the park as well. After that thunder bastard, I would like to have seen us then go on and really take control. Their heads maybe start to go down, maybe they start to tire, and we can make it a real convincing win. But no, not the case. However, thank God for that second goal, because tell you what, defending set pieces, that was not, was it, Glen?
What was the set piece? What was the foul for? Because I have no idea what the referee saw in terms of giving a free kick. I mean, that was down the side that you were in the terrace. Any idea?
No, I can't remember. Can't remember. However, clearly it wasn't that significant, was it?
No.
So can't remember. But we did deal with it well. I just remember hearing one of the defenders yell for offside. Meanwhile, we were just conceding a goal essentially.
Yeah, well, I don't actually think it was a defender. I think it was actually Bojan because he was furious at the linesman. But to be honest, I was kind of furious at him again for me kind of switching off um, at the set piece because I'm sure Lila Bada was his man against Celtic, and Lila Bada went away from him on Sunday. I actually think though at the free kick he was left with two. And I know there was kind of a free kick at 2-1 where it was on the side of the terrace that I was and kind of getting flicked across left to right as I was looking at the pitch. And again, Bojan was getting left with two at the back post. But he was, in my mind, he was almost trying to play offside. Now, I don't know whether the guy that put the ball in the back of the net was offside when the ball came into the box. And then I don't know this whole kind of phases if he then back onside, how that works.
Yes.
But yeah, for me, Miovski kind of does switch off and let the runner get to the ball that brings it back. And yeah, too many people, as you say, are appealing for offside rather than playing the ball. And unfortunately, when you get into a tie like that, you give an opposition 15 minutes to go and find an equaliser. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at you. And at times, it was a pretty last-ditch defending that kind of kept us ahead, I felt anyway.
It was, and although maybe Jack Kennedy didn't have his best game, I will give credit to him. There was a couple sort of last-minute blocks and clearances as well, where he just sort of nicked into leather it clear, and that maybe would have gone unnoticed. So well done to him, at least there's that. We were backs against the wall, and we did miss some glaring opportunities on the counter-attack too, which you'd have loved to see hit the back of the net, because then all of a sudden it's way more convincing. We're feeling far more positive. Esser Sockler had a big chance that he probably should have scored. In fact, no, definitely should have scored. And then he's in amongst the goals in competitive action. That maybe gets his confidence going. However, no. And also, as we mentioned previously, when Shady Bo just blasted it across the box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Sockler chance, he should have definitely been hitting the target. I know he was a bit on the stretch, but yeah, again, it goes down to that kind of composure in the final third was pretty lacking on Friday night. There was also a really strong penalty claim from Stirling Albion. I spoke about the Rubizic one. I'm not referring to that. I don't know who it was. I'm sure there was a corner, and kind of in the Stramash, somebody totally wiped out the Stirling Albion player. He ended up needing treatment and going off and in going off the pitch, gestured to the Aberdeen fans his displeasure at being probably shouted at for diving, probably some people were accusing him of. But yeah, I think we maybe got away with that one as well. So, for me, frustrating in terms of the performance, but, as Willie Miller said on Sportsound, at the end of the day, we're in the next round, and for a cup game, that's really all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I did try and keep telling myself, like, as I said, we're sort of over that hump of losing against lower league sides. It's better, and maybe next time, I felt like there maybe was some nerves at times from certain players, and maybe next time that will not be the case, because we're out of the slump. So we are in the next round. We have a decent chance of making the semi-final. So ultimately, thank God, it wasn't pretty, but they did it, so it's fine.
Next.
Yeah.
And next is a trip to Gothenburg as the Europa League Playoff round gets underway. After Friday, though, Calum, what was your kind of initial thoughts kind of on Thursday's tie?
Shitting myself. Absolutely shitting myself. I thought we don't look ready at all, and hoping that we'd be able to get at least another body in the door, whether they start or whatever, I don't care. If they can be involved, and then in that second leg they're more up to speed, there's at least the option, they're more integrated to play them should that be required. But I'm not excited with the way our defence is looking, given some of their threats that they pose, the fact they're on very good form at the moment. I know obviously they went out to that Pharaohs side on penalties, but by no means the Pharaohs disgrace themselves as they progressed either in competitions. So no mugs, but they're different to what we've seen before in terms of when we played them last in 2021. Very different, and I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah,
If we can stay in the tie going to the second leg, I'm happy.
yeah, and I remember tweeting, I think when it went 3 or 4-0 to Hacken on Thursday night against Vilnius, that this coming Thursday is going to be a tricky tie for us. And the barrage of comments coming back saying, "Oh, stop being negative. We'll be fine. We'll do this. We'll do that. We beat them 2 years ago. They lost a Faroese team." I
Yeah.
mean, the Faroese side, have a lot about them. Obviously, kind of some of these points we're speaking about are going to be touched on in the opposition point of view coming up in the next segment with Eric. And I think that was this kind of some of these comments were kind of coming pre-game on Friday, and I think for me Friday just backed up that point. And I wasn't trying to be negative. I was trying to offer a yes, I know, surprise. I was trying to kind of offer a bit of perspective.
Yeah.
That we're not at 100% yet. We're still yet to kind of click into gear this season. And we're coming up, as you say, against a team in fine form with loads of confidence and players that can hurt us, as we've seen in clips and as you're going to hear later on in the episode as well. Mm-hmm. So there's reasons for us to be concerned. I'm just trying to put that bit of perspective on there that I'm not as maybe confident as I was 2-3 weeks ago.
No, absolutely, I'm not at all. I mean, they are second in their league, the Faroese side. That they were knocked out of the Champions League qualification by then took Molde to penalties as well, and also knocked out Ferencvaros. And if we'd drawn these sides, you'd be concerned. And Hacken knocked out on penalties by them, so they're clearly an all right side. And also, as we'll hear from Eric later on in the show, they are in a very different spot, just in general as a football club now as to what they were back then. Likewise, we are. However, a lot has changed, and definitely for the positive for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And interesting to see how they feel after hearing about our result on Friday as well. In terms of an Aberdeen point of view, then, Calum, looking ahead to Thursday, we named the same starting 11 from the Celtic game on Friday night against Stirling Albion. What, if any, changes do you expect Barry to make ahead of the game on Thursday night? Would Johnny Hayes be the most kind of obvious change kind of coming in for Ryan Duncan at left wing back? And kind of apart from that, I don't really see where else we make any changes to the team.
No, neither do I. I think Johnny Hayes is the obvious one in terms of just the experience he has coming in at left wing back. I think that could be of use in a game like this. You could maybe potentially argue that McDonald comes in since he's had some game time. I don't know whether you risk him in terms of throwing him straight in, and if so, who does he replace? It'd likely be Morris and then Rubicic. Yeah, one centre back. I thought it would likely be either Morris and then you put Devlin to wing back, or maybe Jack McKenzie, leaving Rubicic in there. I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense to go with two centre backs, but there was just too many times on Friday night that I was a bit concerned with the way Rubicic was defending. And, no disrespect to Dale Carrick, but I think the opposition that he's going to be defending on Thursday night are a significant step up. And look, he did okay against Celtic, but there's just some moments where I'm like, I don't think we're going to be able to get away with this on Thursday. So I could certainly see him replacing Angus being a replacement for Rubicic, but in an ideal situation, it would be Angus MacDonald coming in for Shayden Morris and then moving Nicky Devlin out to right wing back and having, as having more than one centre back in our team.
Yeah, that would be great. I think it would be very, very risky to take out Rubicic in terms of, and then putting McDonald in terms of sort of match fitness. I think having Rubicic in there would be beneficial, and then likewise the experience of McDonald as well. Obviously, not played a lot of games at this sort of level, in fact, any at all, but experience in general.
I suppose then the point would be is if McDonald does come in alongside Rubicic, who plays in the middle of the three?
That's a very, very good point. I would possibly say you could probably argue McDonald, because if Mackenzie is in there as well as in the three, I would like to have McDonald's experience in the middle of the three. And maybe he's got a little bit more pace about him than Rubezic as well. And O'Bani was certainly saying prior to his injury, he looked a yard sharper, which would be encouraging if he is going to end up back at that level. I think that would probably be beneficial. And then likewise, Rubezic between the experience of Devlin and McDonald helps. And then Mackenzie between McDonald and Hayes. I think that would maybe be my preferred shape.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And then I suppose in terms of our front line again, kind of a couple of the questions or comments coming into the tweet. Nick Ramsey picked up a point about kind of Jack McKenzie on Friday night being far too guilty of slowing down the play. And I know that's something kind of you mentioned as well when we were speaking about Friday, maybe taking that extra touch when kind of wasn't necessary. And a kind of his final point was one that's kind of infuriated me for seasons, not just in recent time, was playing one too many passes, which makes our play far too predictable. And I kind of feel we often do that. Instead of maybe missing a man and playing the ball out wide first time, we play it to the next man, who then in turn plays it out wide. And I just think kind of going into this game on Thursday night, we need to be this is going to sound very much like Pete Barry Robson, be quicker in that transition and get that high press up, get into Hacken's face and kind of really put the pressure on them. Because yes, maybe certainly from an Aberdeen point of view, the expectation is on us to progress from this tie, but we're away from home in the first leg, and we've kind of got to go out there and look to cause them problems, because we don't want to be kind of conceding early and giving them any sort of momentum in what is likely to be a sellout in both the home and away ends.
Yes, absolutely. You gingers are just so alike, aren't you, with your transitions? Just love it, absolutely love it. I don't know what it is, but no, I tend to agree, and it will not be easy by any stretch of the imagination, and it will be interesting to see how we do set up, and it will be interesting to see how we approach the game in terms of like, do they set up to soak up pressure and try and hit them on counter-attack, and then probably be happy if we go back to Pittodrie level. It'll be interesting. And
do you think we will set up to? Do you think we will set up to kind of win the game, or set up to? No, I don't want to say like stay in the tie, but like set up to just almost take a draw. I don't really think it's in his mindset.
I don't think it's in his mindset at all. But I think we will set up to be defensively sound with that sort of five and hit them on the break when you've got, McDevlin, Hayes bombing forward and joining in the attack, Paul Vara and Shinney's legs in the midfield, Clarkson's technical ability, we know what he can do. Likewise, Duke's pace and maverick nature, and hopefully some quality finishing from Bojan.
Yeah, and I guess we just need to be better at defending set pieces, but also improving our set piece delivery, because again, it was frustrating on Friday night.
Well, bad.
Pretty poor. I mean, it would help if we could beat the first man 9 times out of 10. But just in general, some of the quality of service to the likes of Bojan and Duke just needs to be that little bit improved from what we've seen so far this season. But I think, look, we also kind of speak about in the next section, which we're just about to come on to. But as long as we are still in this tie, going into next Thursday, we'll be happy. We just need to see that kind of step up in performance from a lot of players on Thursday night, and it's a great opportunity for us to get Europa League group stage football in 2 weeks' time. And let's hope that when you return to the podcast, because of course this is your last appearance on the podcast for a couple of weeks, that we've got group stage football to discuss, because that is that in the Europa League, I should say.
I was going to say, have you forgotten that we're going to go into the competition? Yeah. But no, I do agree. And also, one final thing before we talk to Eric, it will be interesting to see how a lot of the players deal with European competition. It'll be brand new for most of them, to be honest, and it'll be very interesting to see how they cope, how they adapt. And have they got the sort of tactical know stuff that's often required in Europe in terms of playing to the official. That will be interesting.
Yeah, but I suppose it'll maybe be a bit harder to play to the official now that VAR is involved in, of course, the playoff round. It hasn't been involved in previous rounds. But yes, I think you're right as well. Sometimes it depends on where the official comes from. There may be a bit more likely to give free kicks that we're not used to seeing given, and playing up to play acting and dishing out yellow cards easier than what we're used to. But yeah, I think that's actually is quite a fair point. And if they're up to the mental aspects of it as well, because it'll be mentally draining on them as well, with the pressure and expectation that comes certainly from a fan base here in Aberdeen to win this tie. And I know the fan base in Sweden have probably similar expectations. So without further ado, we caught up with Eric from the Pogaya podcast to hear the opposition point of view ahead of Thursday's game. Eric, welcome along to Red Tinted Glasses. Pleasure to have you on the show, joining us from Gothenburg this evening. And I suppose ahead of the game on Thursday, the first question on everybody's lips really is, what's the biggest difference in Hacken? Obviously, we faced each other 2 years ago during COVID. Aberdeen were successful in that tie, 5-3 on aggregate. But Hacken seemed to be much improved from the last time we faced it, currently 1 point off the top of the Swedish league. So can you give us a bit of insight into what has changed for yourselves in the 2 years?
I think it's easier to answer what is the same since last time, because so much has changed up. And when we were facing you in 2021, that was really a low point in our current history. We just sacked the coach, and I think that was. Those games were one of the first games for our new coach, who is with us today as well. And I think we were, if not at the absolute bottom of the league, but we were really bad that season, and in that time particularly. So I went through the starting 11 just now, and I think it's maybe 2 players or 3 players that are the same. Otherwise, everybody has changed. And when we talked about facing you again, everybody that I talked to was like, "Oh, we lost to them, so it can be a tough game." And then everybody realized, but this was in 2021, and just remember what kind of mood we were in. So since then, a lot of things has changed, and I think particularly in because we won the league last year, and I think that changed the mindset in the whole club. We're not scared anymore. Yeah. So I think a lot of things have changed.
I suppose for Aberdeen, a lot has changed. I know as well, you say Hacken only got 2 players from our starting 11. Glen, do you think, I can't think of anyone who was there when we played.
Just Johnny Hayes.
Just Johnny Hayes.
We've only got 1 player in our team from the last time the 2 teams faced.
I suppose it will be a very, very different tie going into this, and Hacken seems to have been on the up in that time, whereas we've sort of teetered a little bit on the verge of things. But I don't know how aware are you of how Aberdeen have been recently, because it's been a very tough few years for us.
Not that much.
And I guess, Eric, you mentioned kind of going into this game when we were speaking over messages on Twitter that this is the biggest game probably in your recent history. I think, Calum, it's fair to say probably our biggest European game since the game against Copenhagen back in 2007. What is the mood like in Gothenburg ahead of this game coming up on Thursday?
A few years back, the club took set a goal that the goal for Hacken is to play in European competitions every year, and with that comes coming top 3 in the league, and so when we won against Vilnius now, and that and we're ready for the Conference League at least if we lose to. That was the huge celebration in the arena, and I was like a little bit worried that there was that was thought of as such a big thing to be in a group stage in Europe. So I was wondering if maybe the club is kind of happy with that, because it's in Sweden. We are only it's only been 8 teams before us since like the 40s or 60s that has been in a group stage in Europe. So it's a huge deal for us to win against Vilnius. So I think that since that game, that has been the focus in the club and among the supporters. Of course, the club is preparing for the game, of course, but it hasn't been that hyped up about the game against Aberdeen, because it's like we've already done something great.
Yeah,
if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, absolutely, they have, and I know for us as well, the fact that we're going to be in a group stage either way, whatever happens, we sort of feel sort of in a similar way, where that at least you've got that sort of safety net, I suppose. But when the draw was made, I think, well, me personally, and certainly a lot of other Aberdeen fans I know, were quite happy with our draw from the side of that. You know, we've played Hacken recently. We got the better of them, and certainly having looked at some of the other sides in the draw, it could have been a lot worse. But I want to know sort of how you felt from your side. I suppose there's also that element of it's a chance of revenge against Aberdeen as well after the last time. There's that sort of element to it as well. But I presume that it's similar in that it's favourable for you guys too.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think you summed it up quite good. But then we should also mention that the game against Klaksvik made that was nothing is easy. Like that was like such a bad thing for us, and it was like I hope it was a wake up call for the whole organization, because that was. For a few days or hours, we were like the laughing stock of not just Sweden, but for Europe. It felt like. Yeah. So I think, of course, it could have been worse than Aberdeen, but I think nothing is taken for granted after the Klaksvik game.
Was there, and I guess, you know, you needed to look at the social media, but there was obviously an expectation that you were going to beat Klaksvik. Was there an expectation as well that you were going to beat Vilnius in the last round as well, from yourself and obviously the rest of the support?
I think it was when the club talked about it, there was no. It was seen as this huge, like we got this is a chance of a lifetime to come to Europe, and for us it's all about the money, because we're not going to win any European tournament, but it's like for us it's 100 million kronor right in the bank, and that is huge for us. So I think it was seen as a big opportunity, but all the other there's some other teams who has went into qualifications and in Sweden, and they're all out of the qualification. So it's I wouldn't say that it's more seen as an opportunity than something we have to win.
I saw the reaction that kind of was being posted after the win over Vilnius about how the result was great, not just for yourselves, but great for Swedish football as a whole, as you kind of alluded to earlier. And I guess the kind of that point kind of passed me by, the fact that you guys will be guaranteed group stage football regardless of win or lose in this tie. Were Vilnius, you know, we obviously saw the second leg result. It was quite comprehensive. I know they went down to 10 men, but over the 2 legs, were you surprised by how maybe poor Vilnius were, or were you guys just that good across the two legs?
I think it was a combination because, and one thing with the Vilnius games we have to mention is our new signing, the guy from Croatia, I think, Sergio. Yeah, because we've never paid that amount for any player before. I think it was close to 1.6 million euros, and that was like a huge deal for us. And then when he came into the first game and scored 2 goals, I think that changed the whole game for us, and it seemed really possible to win. And it was a huge relief for us as well, because we've all been through like paying great sums for players who just end up on the bench, right? So that was a huge thing in those 2 games, that he was that good, and he has already paid back that amount, right, for us.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think it's 7 goals in 9 games for Herstich, so a big threat for us.
Amazing.
Coming into Thursday night, we spoke pre-recording that there is a derby game coming up in between the first and second leg against IFK Gothenburg. How much will that be influencing between first and second leg, depending, of course, of the result? Because I know with you guys still in contention for the league as well, it's going to be a huge game a week on Sunday.
Yeah, but we have to. I think we have to mention about the history between the 2 clubs, because it's the Häcken has always been the little brother, the younger brother of those 2 teams, and just like when I was growing up, nobody was a supporter for Häcken. Nobody, and IFK Gothenburg is still so much bigger supporter-wise. But in the last maybe 5 years, the big brother has gotten sick. So like we're still the younger brother, but the big brother is both mentally now they're so bad, and the club has been through so much bad decisions, and they're really and now they're threatened by the relegation, right? They're like in the bottom 3, I think.
Yeah.
So the game is important between the supporters, and for like this is another another chance for Häcken to show that, all right, we are the best team in this town. There's no doubt about it. But it's more important for Gothenburg to win, to not to be relegated. But it's for us. I think it's going to be the least important derby for quite some years.
Okay, yeah,
So
I kind of just I guess I just wondered how important it was going to be kind of viewed, because obviously with you guys going for the league, if the tie was finally balanced ahead of the return leg against Pataudry, would you maybe potentially see a few players rested, or does winning that derby mean a lot given where you are in the league just now?
If players is going to be resting, it would definitely be in the derby, because that's the main focus for the whole club is in the European.
Okay, well that's fine. Tactically, then let's look ahead to Thursday. What sort of tactics do you think Pierre-Mathias Hogmo is going to look at using against Aberdeen on Thursday night? Stick to what he does domestically, or does he change things up for European competition?
No, I think it's going to be the same as he usually is, but there's like during this season with there's like a saying between the supporters that we can only win against teams that want to win.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, because when we played against Clarkson, they were surely happy with a tie, and we can't really face that. We need to have to play against a team that wants to win. So I think it's going to be a fantastic game on Thursday, because both sides are going for it, both home and away.
Yeah, I think Calum, that'll be interesting, kind of hearing that, because that is what we like to do, is kind of use that kind of counter-attacking football and maybe to hit them on the break. And if that's how Hacken like to play, then we could almost be shooting ourselves in our foot.
Possibly. I would probably expect us to be setting up to be in the tie going into the second leg, just off the way we've been playing lately, and I think we will struggle in this. So that might go against Hacken, but also it's funny hearing Eric say that, and that they can only win against teams that want to win, because how often do we struggle against teams that sit in and try and make it difficult for us? We really struggle to break them down. So it sounds very similar to us too.
I think that's why I think Eric's right. I think Thursday's really set up to be quite a fascinating encounter, and see how it's left after this week.
Yeah, and for Per Mathias Högmo, he's made it clear from the start, from when he came to the club, that the best thing he knows is to play in European competitions, because I think he was he with in Champions League with Vålerenga, maybe, I don't know, but so for him, this game is hugely important to go on a group stage. So I think he's going to go for it 100%.
Us Aberdeen fans have been made aware of 3 Hacken players in particular that could potentially hurt us, and 3 that in particular stood out against Vilnius and in the recent games too. Those being, now forgive me if I pronounced them wrong, Amen Romeo, the left centre midfielder, Abraham Sadiq. In fact, we've been seeing a lot of clips over him recently as well, and he does look frightening, especially given the state of our left side of the defence at sometimes just now. And young Stan Hrstić of Serbia, which could be a very potentially interesting battle, given the fact we have recently signed a Serbian centre-back of our own, so that could be very, very interesting. Could you tell us perhaps a little bit about those, and are those players mentioned the key threats, do you think, if Hacken are going to have come out on top in this tie?
You mentioned Amane Romeo, right? I'm not sure if I don't think he's going to start in any game. And he's like, I think he's a favorite from the supporters, but he's not impressed me that much. But he's a young player, and you kind of want him to succeed in the club, right? And you also mentioned Sadiq, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is a fantastic player. He's a real threat. Our last game ended 3 hours ago, and he was fantastic in that game too. The only threat, or not threat, but he's kind of very, very impulsive.
Okay.
So I don't know if the players are listening to your podcast, but just if like, I think they could provoke him into taking a red card really easily, because he's hot-headed, and it was in today's game, it was 2 or 3 situations that was like, oh, this is going to be trouble. So I think if we would come in a situation where we're playing away with maybe two goals against us, he's going to be so frustrated. So I think, and that's a threat for us, because he gets so he loses his head. He loses his head. But he's a fast player, and yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a few
and
players that tune into our podcast, so I'm sure they'll be making notes of that one. But yeah, his pace, as Calum said, has certainly been something that has frightened a few of us Aberdeen fans. Our left side of defence certainly is the area that is causing concern so far for us.
Yeah.
There's also been... Sorry to interrupt before you go on to the striker. There's been a lot of transfer speculation I've seen around Ibrahim Sadiq, with some bids being allegedly put in and the club holding out for 3 million. Do you think that could be something that, develops between now and Thursday, or are you pretty confident that he'll be taking his place in the lineup on Thursday night?
I'm pretty confident that he's going to be playing on Thursday. Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of things going on, but we still, and now it's so easy to do the math with the transfers now, because if we're gonna get 3 million for him, how much we're gonna get? 10 million is the difference between Conference and Europa League for us, right? So it's I don't think because we sold Benny Traoré to Sheffield, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the opinion after the Clarkson game was like, all right, we sold the Champions League because it was so obvious that he would have made a huge difference in that game. So I think they're going to be with Sadiq. I think they're going to be not before Thursday. I think maybe if we win big on Thursday, then maybe he's not going to start in the next game. But I think they're two the European competitions means so much for the club.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just probably puts to bed some doubts there, or certainly people that were rumouring in from our side. But yeah, as we mentioned, and Calum pointed out, Serdan Herstich scoring loads of goals for fun.
Yeah.
What sort of kind of movement does he offer in terms of threatening Aberdeen?
The thing is that he was in the first. The first game against Vilnius, I was watching it with a lot of guys, and just before he scored his first goal, a friend of mine mentioned, like, he's like, what? Why did we pay so much for him? We haven't seen him in the game, and then he just. So I think it's a guy who just stands in the right place, right? And giving that are in Sweden, when people talk about Hacken, the main focus is not about the forwards; it's about the midfield.
Okay.
So like that is like it's considered by far the best midfield in Sweden, and so it should be easy to score goals if you're a player like him in Hacken, because the ball is just gonna drop in front of you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the way we play, right? And we had the top scorer in the league, maybe 7 or 6 out of the last 10 seasons. So that's like the way we play, right? Yeah. But he's an amazing player. Just looking at the stats, and as I said, it's the biggest signing money-wise for us, and he's already like paid his debt. Like, for that one.
And I guess one player as well, when you speak about service and energy to your play, he was missing from today's game, is left back Christopher Lund. Again,
he's gone.
He's gone, yeah. So no involved on Thursday then.
No. Excuse me?
I think it was Palermo's the club that he's away to.
They haven't come. They haven't said anything officially, but I was on the on the training on Thursday or Friday. Yesterday, and he wasn't there, and he wasn't at today's game. And after the game against was it Varberg, I think, like our last league game. He went up in the stand to celebrate with the supporters. So that was clearly like a goodbye for me kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and Sadiq did that as well. But I think he just want to have fun. I don't know. I don't know if he understands what that means.
Yeah. How much of a miss will he be for you guys? For this game in particular.
I don't know. We have like. In today's game, I couldn't say that I missed him that much, but
okay.
I think because we got a lot of defenders behind him, so to speak. And as I said earlier, the club really does the math. Like, all right, it's okay to sell him because we have like in this stage you're not gonna jeopardize anything.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. And for you as well, Calum mentioned about how you guys felt about drawing Aberdeen. How do you view the fact that you guys are at home first? Do you think that's a bigger advantage for you guys this time around? Because obviously last time it was a trip to Pittodrie first that the scoreline probably meant that the second leg was a bit difficult to overcome. Are you happier that you've got home advantage first? Because of course the last time we met, it was a 2-0 win at home for yourselves.
I think I think I'm happy about the home game being first because I don't see us losing the home game. But I could see if we played away first. Like the last time that we lose by a couple of goals, and then the morale of the whole team is lacking, and then it's not going to be. Yeah.
And Calum, Eric mentions the fact that he doesn't see them losing the game. There was a lot of talk kind of after our game on Friday night about almost accepting a 0-0 on Thursday night over in Sweden. If I offered you a 0-0 in Sweden right now, would you take that and come back to Pittodrie level pegging?
I think so. Yeah, I'd be happy if we came back level. A chance to do it in front of what will be a very busy Pittodrie. Unfortunately, I won't be there. But I think it'll be very much heading towards a sellout, a chance for a big crowd to get behind the boys, and we know the difference that can make. And the fact we do struggle on the road quite a lot as well. If we can come back level at this point, even if we're a goal behind him, if it finishes 1-0 Hacken or 2-1, and we can take it back over still in the tie, I have more faith in that we can go and get the job done rather than had we played at home first, that it had been level or close, and then had to go and hold on to something there, or even worse, overturn our deficit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There you go.
Yeah, excuse me but we rarely play 0-0. We always if there's something I know about Hacken, it's that we always let one goal in. It's yeah. So it's like if we today's game, they scored a goal against us in the first minute, and it was like, all right, that's the way it is. That's like we're gonna let one in. So it's So I think 0-0 is not it's not going to end like that the first game. Yeah.
No, I think there will be goals in this tie for sure, and I think looking at your record at home, especially, it's an extremely impressive home record, domestically anyway. So we know it's going to be tough, and I think we've been allocated 600 odd tickets. There'll definitely be close to that in attendance from Aberdeen. what sort of crowd will be there from Hacken on Thursday? Is it going to be a sellout home crowd too? Do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think it's going to be sold out. Because when we a couple of years ago, the European games wasn't that, the tickets wasn't hot at all. Like nobody showed up, but now it's given the success of the team over the last couple of years, so the attendance has gained much over the years. But surely this game being so important, it's going to be a sold out game.
Yeah. No, but I'm sure it'll be really good to see and a really good atmosphere as well. You mentioned today's game. What was your kind of reaction to the win today? You described it when you joined the call before recording as a roller coaster of emotion. It was a 3-2 win over Sirius. As you said, as we discussed, maintaining ourselves being 1 point behind Elfsborg. Do you think there was any kind of tiredness from Thursday night that affected today's win, or was it just a classic case of the kind of mid-season game against a team struggling at the bottom end of the table?
I don't really know, because I think that it's the tiredness. Like these players should be able to play a couple of games, right, in a week. So I think that the tiredness is more of a it's in their minds, right? I think that is going to affect the game against Aberdeen much more than the physical side to it. And I've learned, like, I realized the last season for us that it's so much is in their heads, right? It just if you don't like. And I think we are at a point right now that we are not going to be scared of Aberdeen. A couple of years back, we would be really frightened. Like, oh, this is you understand what I mean. But we're not frightened anymore. So I think that is more of importance than those games before and after.
That's a really interesting point, because we played on Friday night against Stirling Albion, who are a couple of divisions below us, and I don't know, we're obviously we're doing this segment before we've discussed the first part. For those listening, it's a bit back to front the way we record this podcast, but I'm going to use the term kind of scraped past certainly the way the last 20 minutes went, and there's certainly been a bit of a overreaction in some parts to the win on Friday, that we can't play like this on Thursday. Hacken will beat us comfortably. Was there that kind of reaction amongst fans of Hacken today after the way that the game went? Because I heard that Sirius hit the post at 2-2, and they had was it a goal disallowed from VAR, or there was an incident with VAR as well? So is there?
No, we don't have video referee.
Oh, okay.
Only on the European games. So.
Okay. Was there that same sort of, though, kind of reaction to the level of performance from your fans, in the sense that we can't play like this against Aberdeen on Thursday?
Yeah, it was. I heard a couple of comments that when I thought we were good again, like that this game is happening. So, but after that last goal, the emotion was so high. So I haven't really heard any deep analytics of the game. Because it went on to be a fantastic win. Yeah. So I'm not really sure, but I got sent the tweet from when the club announced the score against the team you mentioned now, and people and supporters of Hacken was like, this is really good. Now the supporters are pissed off by this, and so that result. Find its way to us as well.
Yeah, so I guess there's a sense that you guys were aware of how we played and how we've reacted to Friday's win.
Yeah.
And has that given you any level of confidence after seeing that?
I don't know. It's so hard to. I don't know. Maybe, but it's all like, and it's those 2 games we're gonna play against each other is like, my thought is really like anything is gonna happen. It's not like, and I don't think the last game against you that has like nothing to do with what is happening today, and our performance in the league has nothing to do with what is happening against you as well. I think it seems like this is really far from anything else we do now, playing for this group stage.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment of how the 2 games coming up are going to be, Calum. And I think, Eric's right, because if you take a look at our performances so far this season, they've definitely been Jekyll and Hyde, and I think we've got to almost look at these games coming up in isolation out with what else has happened so far.
But how is the because it's as I mentioned, it's clearly from the club's point of view, we're going for the European thing, right? Could you what is the view on the European games against the league games? How do you view that?
Well, it's difficult to say because we're also only 3 games into our season compared to yourselves who are halfway through your campaign. But I think we certainly view this tie as an ideal opportunity to get ourselves into the Europa League, as we've obviously discussed. So do you guys. And then I think we've just got to take it game by game once we see where we end up on the draw. We know fine well if we get into the Europa League, it will be much difficult to progress through that group, given the quality of teams there. I think, it's been an argument about whether or not Europa League versus Conference League, what suits better. Fine well that, probably 4 points in the Europa League would see you maybe finish third and get into the knockout or playoff of the Conference League. Whereas if we lost this tie and we're in the Conference League, we could maybe pick up a few wins. But I would say our aim is definitely to be in the Europa League, and then I think that will, in my opinion, Calum, probably be viewed as a bit more important to the fans more than the league compared to the club. But the club will definitely be looking for a repeat of that 3rd place finish, given it will once again carry that carrot of guaranteed group stage football. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, also, I suppose for me, if we can have a bit more of this guaranteed group stage football, I'd be delighted, because I'm for context, I'm now 23. I've never been abroad to see us play in a European game, and the fact it's group stages. We've not played in the group stages since 2007, 8th season of a competition, and we've tried getting through all the qualifying rounds so many times through the years and always failed. So for me, I'm just delighted to be involved, and the fact it gives you the opportunity to go abroad following your team and things. I'm very happy. I think the club will also probably view getting back there and making it a regular occurrence, because then with the types of players you can attract when that's the case, when you can say it's going to be a European group stage football again, and also the financial benefits as well. And then we just get to have a good time wherever we end up, I suppose.
Yeah, I think, definitely. I think I've done 7 European trips. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be coming over to Gothenburg on Thursday night, but it's so much fun following the club in Europe, and I'm looking forward to having at least 3 more trips. And I know, Eric, you're not coming over to Aberdeen, because you've just
no, I'm not.
Yeah, parent duties preventing you from doing that, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
But Eric, it's been a great pleasure getting your insight into the game on Thursday. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday evening after what's been a very busy and emotional day for you today.
Yeah, my wife is also pregnant right now, and during the last 5 minutes of the game today, she was like, "It's coming right now. I can't take it. It's too much emotion. Like it's coming right now." So we'll see. Maybe we'll have a big celebration on Thursday as well if the game is really really good.
Well, hopefully all goes well with that if it comes on Thursday or before, of course. Wish you all the best for that. And as I said, thank you very much for taking your time out to speak to us on Red Tinted Glasses tonight. And enjoy the game on Thursday. And good luck for the league for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Eric for his point of views on Thursday night. Certainly got me excited, if not somewhat nervous. I'm sure those nerves will build over the course of the week, Calum. I hope you enjoy your time off from the podcast, and those that are coming in to step in for your shoes will be up to the job, but I look forward to catching up with you when you're back.
Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll have... hopefully I won't peel, to be honest, whilst I'm away, because the day I'm due to arrive in Budapest, 30 degrees. So it'll be interesting for a fair-skinned chap like me. But thank you very much. Good luck to whoever steps in. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. And to make sure you don't miss that, if you're going to be glad to get rid of me, subscribe, because it's 4 games that I'm going to miss. Follow wherever you're listening, follow us on Twitter at RTG_podcast, and leave a like if you're delighted to see the back of me for a short-term period.
And on the back of course, this game against Hacken, as Calum says, if you are subscribing to our channel on YouTube, I will be doing a live watch along to the group stage draw for whatever group we are in. So get subscribed and notifications on for that. Until next time, though, I will be back on Friday lunchtime or Friday evening. I think, it'll be Friday evening because I'm not on a half day this Friday. So probably Friday evening to look back at the game on Thursday night and head to the game against St Mirren on Sunday. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.